Hello everyone, welcome back to LaExcellence Bengaluru presents current issue of the day. In today's episode, we will be discussing a very important topic, especially from UPSC mains perspective. That is, what do you mean by state-sponsored terrorism? Is Pakistan really a terrorist state? We will find the answers for this in today's video. First, we will see why it is in news and discuss about FATF report. What is state-sponsored terrorism? What is FATF's role in state-sponsored terrorism? What has been India's role and what are the implications of this report? Everything is covered holistically. So, in syllabus, it comes under GS3 Internal Security and GS2 International Relations. Context: in a significant development, the Financial Action Task Force, the global watchdog for anti-money laundering and terror financing, has for the first time included a dedicated section on state-sponsored terrorism in July 2025 comprehensive update on terrorist financing risks. Okay, every month FATF will be releasing a report such as comprehensive update on terrorist financing, and for the first time they have included a new tab or new section, a dedicated section on state-sponsored terrorism. Okay, that is why this news becomes very important for us. So, what do you mean by state-sponsored terrorism? State-sponsored terrorism, in simple words or in layman terms, a terrorism which is sponsored by a government, a terrorism which is sponsored by a nation, a terrorism which is sponsored by a country. Okay, so state-sponsored terrorism refers to the intentional support of terrorist groups by a national government to pursue strategic, ideological and geopolitical objective. Okay, they don't support terrorist or terrorism just for the sake of it, but for certain innate uses of themselves, such as strategic, ideological or geopolitical objectives. Okay, forms of state sponsorship. Okay, so excuse me. So first is direct financial transfer to the terror groups. Second is providing safe havens and training camps for militants. Provision of arms, explosives and logistics. Diplomatic cover or political legitimization. Finally, use of proxy organizations to maintain deniability. Okay, just identify the characteristics of state sponsorship. One is direct financial transfer to the terror groups. Does Pakistan do that? Yes. Safe havens and training camps for the militants. Are there terrorist camps in Pakistan? Yes. Provision of arms, explosives and logistics. Does Pakistan provide terrorists with these things to attack on India? Obviously. And does Pakistan provide diplomatic cover or political legitimization? For example, in the recent case of Masood Azhar, where Pakistan took the stand of Masood Azhar in UNSC. Does Pakistan do that? Obviously. Finally, use of proxy organizations to maintain deniability. Does Pakistan have organizations who conduct terrorist activities and show themselves as an organization or charitable organization? Obviously, yes. So Pakistan does all kinds of state-sponsored terrorism, not just any form. Okay, Pakistan is like, why take only one form of state sponsorship? Take all kinds of state sponsorship from our side. Okay, so what is FATF? Before we discuss the report in a detailed way, we will discuss what is FATF. Full name is Financial Action Task Force. It was established in 1989 by the G7 countries in G7 summit in Paris. Headquarters is in Paris, France. Mandate: combat money laundering, terrorist financing and weapons of mass destruction funding. Initially, when it was established, its sole mandate was to combat money laundering, but when they understood the link between money laundering and terror financing, they included terrorist financing and weapons of mass destruction funding. Okay. Members, there are 13 members including India, and one of the major work of FATF is providing lists or producing list, grey list, black list. The countries based on these money laundering, terrorist financing and weapons of mass destruction funding will be listed in grey list or black list. In grey list, there will be increased monitoring, If they are included in blacklist, then it shows that the country is in high risk, okay, or the country itself is high risk. Next, what is FATF's role in addressing terrorist financing? So FATF action so far is that Pakistan was grey listed from 2018 to 22, leading to financial and diplomatic pressure. Demands transparency, regulation of NGOs, Hawala networks, online donations, and real estate transactions. Okay, in order to demand transparency, it regulates NGOs, Hawala networks, online donations, as well as real estate transactions, where there are higher chances of money laundering, where there are higher chances of using the money for terror financing. Okay. Next is key FATF actionable points for Pakistan. In the new report, what did FATF say to Pakistan? Where and which areas is Pakistan doing well, or which areas is Pakistan lagging behind? First recommendation area is with regard to prosecution of terrorists. FATF observation is that weak enforcement against LET, that is Lashkar-e-Toiba, and Jaish-e-Mohammed leadership. They have the know-abouts or whereabouts of the LET and JM leadership, but they are not prosecuting them. Second is regulation of madrasas and NGOs. Unmonitored donations, especially foreign funding. Next is judicial action, that is Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar not effectively prosecuted, similar to first one. And finally, financial transparency, failure to freeze terror linked bank accounts. Okay, so Pakistan is failing in on all the grounds. As a result, they have been considered as a terror financing country or state sponsored terrorist countries. Okay, next, so just for a comparative analysis, there is another country which has been included in the grey list or blacklist, that is Iran. Then we will understand the comparison between different countries. What will be the impact of being included in grey list or blacklist? First is Pakistan, then Iran and India for just comparative analysis. So status in FATF, Pakistan is grey listed and it will be relisted based on the 2025 to be decided, and then Iran is blacklisted since February 2020. This is mainly because of the pressure from United States. Then India, it has never been listed because we are not terror sponsoring countries. Then year on list, not necessary. Then key reasons. Okay, what is the key reason for grey list in Pakistan? One is inadequate action against LET, JAM, financial misuse of NGOs. And why the Iran? No transparency, no anti-terror finance reforms in Iran. And also Iran has been charged on financing for weapons of mass destruction such as nuclear weapons. India has strong anti-money laundering and counterfeit terrorism. Strong, the mechanism is very strong. Laundering or counter-terror laws are present in India. So what was the impact of being listed in grey list? For Pakistan, there was economic losses such as 38 billion as per the World Bank report, and it has to adhere to IMF bailout constraints. Okay, within the IMF money which is provided to Pakistan, there are certain constraints that you have to stop terror financing. Second is for Iran, the impact was even graver. That is, it was cut off from global banking channels. And finally, for India has credible investment destination. As a result, it has never been included. So India is considered as a responsible state. So what has been India's position on Pakistan? Okay, India has been a main voice that Pakistan has been a terror financing country from the long. Okay, India has always advocated for including Pakistan in blacklist or grey list because they have been the main culprits, they have been the main victims, not the culprits, they have been the main victims of Pakistan's state sponsored terrorism. India has long accused Pakistan of harboring terror outfits like LET, JAM and Hizbul Mujahideen. India has accused Pakistan of enabling the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, Pulwama attack, Uri attack, and recent Palgam attack as well. India has also voiced for global advocacy by India. That is, India raised the issue at United Nations General Assembly, FATF, G20, SCO, and BRICS forums. It has used all kinds of international forums for showcasing the role of Pakistan. India advocated for zero tolerance policy towards terrorism and advocated for stricter global norms. The diplomatic tools used by India were pushed for Pakistan's FATF grey listing, shared dossiers with the international bodies, promoted UN listing of Masood Azhar and Hafiz Saeed as a global terrorist, which was obviously opposed by China as well as Pakistan, which is showcasing how India is fighting two-pronged war at the moment. Okay. Then implications of FATF's statement. So in the recent report, FATF has included Pakistan in the state-sponsored countries which are sponsoring the state-sponsored terrorism. Okay. So according to that, the implications of the statement is that it is a diplomatic victory for India. It has provided global validation of India's claims about Pakistan. It may strengthen India's position in international forums. It has also put pressure on state sponsors. Okay. It opens the door for naming and shaming of governments involved in terror funding, such as Pakistan. Could lead to economic sanctions, global isolation, or renewed FATF scrutiny. Then it boosts counter-terror financing mechanism, encourages stronger international cooperation in tracking state-linked terror finance routes. So, way forward, how do you deal with the state-sponsored terrorism? Strengthening global response to state-sponsored terrorism. How you can do is, one is, there should be clearer international framework. FATF and United Nations must define legal obligations for states enabling terror. They must be very strict with regard to states sponsoring the terror. International conventions on terrorism should include state complicity clauses. Okay, and then enhancing monitoring tools. FATF should use AI, blockchain forensics, and cross-border intelligence sharing to detect suspicious state-linked transactions. And political and economic sanctions. Just calling a country as a state which is sponsoring terrorism is not going to be enough. There has to be certain implications. There has to be certain sanctions. Only then that country will stop the financing to terrorists. So there should be strict political and economic sanctions. That is, extend FATF action beyond grey listing to include real economic penalties on proven violations. And empowering regional responses such as SAARC, ASEAN, and SCO must create joint task forces for regional anti-terror monitoring. Okay, and finally, protecting the victim states. Any state which has been a victim of terror financed or state sponsored for terrorism should get support. Okay, should get support. So there should be support to victim countries like India in building counter-terror infrastructure, border security, and legal redressal mechanisms. Okay, so this way we can stop or put an end to state-sponsored terrorism and avoid the recent attacks like Palgam attack. Okay, so this is a very important topic, especially from coming mains. So all the important points which I told you, just make a note of it and use in your answers. So this ends our video for the day. Jai Hind.